Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Sunless Sea? It's best described, I think, as a roguelite, narratively driven adventure on an underwater ocean in a rubbish boat. Or ship, whichever you prefer. You start off with a fairly terrible steamship. You are expected to make your living within the world, survive, hopefully get a bigger ship, and not be eaten by giant crabs. All of these things can happen and will on the Sunless Sea. It's based in a world called Fallen London, which has previously existed and was created by Failbetter Games as a sort of narratively driven browser game. And they've now translated it into another title, but used the same lore, which is, as I will point out, probably the greatest strength of the title. Well, a quick look at the options menu. Usually I do this a bit later, but there's little to see here. Music and SFX volume. You've got a bunch of graphics presets, which are frankly useless and should be labeled better. Resolution options, which go all the way up to whatever. We can turn screen effects on. I'm not actually sure why that's off. And you can also edit your key bindings, if you so desire. The vast majority of the game, however, will... Actually, that's not necessarily fair. There's a lot of mouse-driven stuff in the game, but controlling your ship is done with the keyboard, so you will be using both. Now, this thing right here allows you to update the number of stories the game has, which, as far as I can tell, is a way to get more narrative and more quest into the game directly. As far as I know. It doesn't really explain itself all that well. So, we join the adventures of our fourth or possibly fifth captain, who is not quite dead, as he attempts to make his fortune upon the Z, as the game describes it. It is called the Z. And people are called Zailers. Alright, so this is your main hub area. It's Fallen London. This is where most of the stuff happens. This is where you have to frequently revisit in order to actually get anything done. And here you will be given a list of options. All of these right here. I could go and have a word with the Admiral, for instance. And perhaps I will have something to give him. He is a quest giver. And eventually you gain access to him. And you're going to be gathering information and reports for him in order to make your living. There's a few other people. For instance, this fellow right here is a venturer. He requires certain things, and you can see what exactly he wants here. He wants 7 outlandish artifacts, so I need to find a place where I can find one of those. And I can't complete it. It's locked because I don't have the prerequisites, as you can see. Find them in buried treasure, broken museums, pirate cargoes, now and then the stomachs of monsters. Good luck. I need 7. Don't ask why. 1,500 echoes will answer all your questions. As you'll probably tell, the writing is by far the biggest strength of this game and drives the whole damn thing, and I'll be reading quite a bit of it through this in audiobook style, because why the hell not? It's just how I do things. Now, you can also do things like visit your lodgings, which will allow you to relieve terror and calm yourself down, and you also need to make sure that your ship has the appropriate stuff. So, it needs fuel in order to go. If it runs out of fuel, you're in big trouble. There are ways and means to sort this out. This might remind you a little bit of FTL, and perhaps rightfully so, although you'll see some of the differences. There are some similarities here and there. So you need to worry about your fuel, and you also need to worry about your supplies, because if you don't, well, the crew starts starving and begins eating each other, which is generally not a very good thing. Really don't want that. Now, this is your basic Legia class steamer, which is what you start with, and it's equipped with a deck gun. It doesn't have forward weaponry, or aft, in fact, which is actually something I'll talk about in a little bit. And you can equip it with different engines, an auxiliary piece of equipment. In this case, this is the Commanus Yard's pneumatic rat sender. It will send repair rats around the place. Rats are very good engineers in this game, just bear that in mind. The lore is a little bit silly. And I am now equipped with that, and I'm hopefully able to do reasonably well here with the Cotterell and Heathersage Reproach Gun, which I believe is better than my reconditioned piece of rubbish right there. And this, which I discovered I couldn't use and was very upset about. So I've got a bunch of fuel, a bunch of supplies. I'm probably about ready to go. And in my journal, I'll find a list of achievements as well as things that people are asking me to do. A list of favors that I have here. It would be interesting to see what's going on with that. A list of menaces and objectives. Retrieve some strategic information from various places. Collect cargo for the Cheery Man. Collect from Gator's Morn. I actually know where that is, so I should be able to do that without too much of a problem. We can make that happen. Okay, so we're going to leave here. A bunch of the other stuff is just shops and equipment that you can buy. So, let's launch, shall we? And as we do. Alright, so you control your ship and its speed and direction with the W, A, S, and D keys. And you'll also notice that I have a light here. This is fairly important. You can turn your lights off, which will make you harder to see. but it will also increase your terror level, because this is the Sunless Sea. Everything's sunk for some reason. So everything's underground, and it's full of horrible terrors and darkness. So you might want to avoid some of that. Keeping the lights on is generally a good way to try and avoid a lot of that from happening, or staying close to lighthouses and things like that. So the map you explore, the map is consistent. It's not randomly generated, although quite a few of the quests that you are given, even though they seem to be the same every time, have random results. So for instance, you get a quest immediately to take a passenger to this area right here, Venderbite. He's an undead passenger. But lots of things can happen with him. For instance, once I took him over there, and he just dissolved into dust once he arrived. Another time, he tried to get out of his coffin in the middle of the expedition and caused a bunch of trouble on the ship. Another time, he ended up being a criminal. So there are a bunch of different stories associated with what would otherwise be the same quests that you get. So there is, indeed, a bunch of replayability in here. Not to mention the fact that you will gradually learn when things are and the most efficient way to actually start your journeys without getting horribly eaten alive. Also notice down at the bottom here there's a logbook, and that's going to give you a bunch of little narrative flavor. In fact, this game is completely infused with that. I spoke about the narrative being the strong point. It really is. The writing is absolutely fantastic. And if you are not the sort of person that likes reading things, then this may be a game that puts you off, because there's quite a lot of that going on. I'm going to speed up so we can get to Gator's Maw a little bit faster. No reason not to. I'm just going to burn the fuel a little bit quicker. There is the possibility my engines might explode, but I'm confident that that will not happen. I hope. Hopefully. I could also send out a Z-Bat if I wish to look around. This is a good little scouting method. It'll tell me maybe that there's an island nearby so I can go visit it. For instance, the Demur Island is a long way to the north. I did not know that, so that's something that I can explore if I so desire and mark it on the chart in order to do so. But every character you speak to has a very interesting story behind them, and it's made an awful lot better by the fact that this world is really well fleshed out. It's intriguing. It's strange, a little bit whimsical, but also terrifying. It reminds me in many ways of a mishmash of Pratchett and... I mean, I would go as far as to say we're talking about Cthulhu mythos. Why I've just forgotten all of... Why... H.P. Lovecraft, of course. What on earth am I thinking? My literary prowess is not on point today. It reminds me of a mixture of Lovecraft and Pratchett. It's whimsical, but also terrifying and strange. There's some very creepy stuff going on here. And all of the flavor text is so very well written, and it really helps flesh out the world, and all the characters that you speak to are also very well written and have their own little eccentricities and complexities. Alright, so we have visited a port. By docking with the port, we will gain access to the port, and we can do a bunch of other stuff, including challenges. These are all determined by resources that you have. There's a bunch of stats you've got to the top here, like hearts, and veils, and pages, and mirrors. These are all stats that are... They're all a very strange sort of name, but they kind of break down to, this is my ability to inspire, heal, and defend. This is my ability to use stealth and deception. This is my ability to detect deception. This is my ability to gather esoteric knowledge, and this is my ability to destroy things with a big gun. So that's what these things mean, and these officers that I have right here will be able to help me in various ways, and I can trade with them secrets in order to buff up various abilities. And I can also have cool conversations with them and unlock quests and all sorts of things. I mean, the game is completely stuffed full of content. Alright. So, we could go explore the Morn, which something awaits me, so let's go do that. Alright. There's a surprising quantity of actual landscape on the Morn. It's vertical, admittedly, but once you find the beast paths and urchin roads, you can traverse it as you would a rocky moor, with an additional throatful of lurching terror. An intriguing smell. Who'll try? Who'll buy? A street vendor turns, skewers on a grill. The mixed scents are nothing like anything sold in London. Try the grilled troglodyte prawns as an option. If I had the ability unaccountably peckish, I would want something a little bit bigger. And there's also a high-risk challenge with a 19... I am not going to eat any of these. I don't have the heart for it. I will try the grilled troglodyte prawns. They seem reasonable. There we go. I've lost 5 hunger, and I've lost 2 terror and gained a fragment of lore. There we go. All of these things that you collect, the best way to consider them is that they're cards, essentially. Like, a secret is a card, or this book is a card, or this piece of recent news is a card. That's the easiest way to describe it. So you're trading cards in for various things. So the more cards that you have, the more options you will unlock. That's perhaps the best way to do it. It's a weird thing because it treats stuff that really wouldn't really be that way as an item. It's a very gamey idea, but it works very well. Alright, so I actually now have a secret. I could upgrade a stat. I could have a word with my tireless mechanic right here. So I will speak to my tireless mechanic. I can increase my veils if I so desire. Although I do find that I really would like to increase my hearts because I keep running into challenges that I can't actually do anything with. You can also notice that there's a bunch of quests here that I can unlock with this guy as well after I've talked to him more. Let's have a word with the doctor here. I would like to increase my hearts if you don't mind. There we go. I have lost the secret and traded it in for a heart stat, which has increased it just a little bit. And I'm actually going to do that again. There we go. Cool. So that's all nice and easy. Now, I believe I did have a quest here that I need to deal with. So let's do just that. Let's go back to Gator's Morn for a second. What did I have? Oh, we could gather intelligence. 72% chance of success. That's probably a good idea. There we go. And that got me a port report, which I can now hand into the Admiral here, which is a good way of making some money. And we could take it left. I'm almost certain we actually had a cargo thing to hand in here. Was I mistaken in that respect? Where is it? There's a big list of stuff here. Collecting cargo for the Cherryman. Collect from Gator's Morn in the Corsair's Forest. You've been asked to pick up a package and return it to London. I would love to. Am I missing something? There's the guy. Oh, I need money. Okay, I need 1,000 echoes in order to pick that package up. Oops. I probably shouldn't have spent that earlier on a big gun. It's okay. Never mind. We can come back to that later. I'm sure that'll be absolutely fine. Let's go and do a little bit of exploring. We've got an island over here. So you might be getting FTL vibes off this in some way. And that's understandable. You've got crewmen that can be killed. You do have these guys who, as far as I know, you can't lose officers. I've never actually had that happen, but I guess it might be possible. And you're dealing with resource management, very much so, and different events. But it's a lot easier to avoid things. This is a cohesive world, whereas FTL is a bunch of jumps that are very randomly generated. So as you learn the game, you gain more control and you gain, frankly, more willingness to travel outside of your comfort zone. If you stay in kind of home waters around Fallen London, it's very safe, but the farther you travel out, the more interesting things that you will find. And it becomes a little bit procedural in many ways. Hello, combat time. Okay, that is a crack pirate frigate. So here's hoping that I have the ability to actually kill it. Alright, well, we do have a new gun, which might be good. I put steam out of the way so I don't get hit by this thing. That's a torpedo. And it hit me. That's terrible. Okay. Alright, he has torpedoes. I don't like that. I'm gonna try and get out of his front guns here. I'm going to use the pneumatic rat sender in order to repair some of my hull damage and try and get behind him. So the combat system in this game is really simple. And if I have to criticize the game, it would be on the basis of this. So it's a real-time combat system that involves plotting a firing solution. You can fire early, but there's a chance that you will miss. In this case, I did manage to hit, so you can take a few risks here and there. But outside of that, it usually involves trying to get behind whatever the ship is. Or if you're fighting a creature, it's just a case of trying to dodge its attacks wherever possible. So, it does involve a certain degree of skill. The main problem is you don't have a lot of options. Your basic ship doesn't have access to front or aft weapons, which include things like torpedoes and, like, flat cannons. So, you start off with this basic deck gun, and actually unlocking a ship that has access to anything good takes ages. I think that the game would have been better served starting you off with a ship that has more than one gun option. Because, frankly, this combat is not particularly strategic, it's very repetitive, and it's not all that fun to engage in. Mostly because you just don't have the options. Alright, let's loot it and see what we got. We've got fuel and supplies. We're able to use our rat to repair there. That's something we'll have. And a cache of curiosities, which contains fuel. 1. Okay, well, let's just say that was a bit of a disappointing piece of looting, especially for a pirate frigate that was that hard to beat, but never mind. Oh well. My supplies and my fuel looking good, so we can continue to travel forward. So if you are looking for a game that's combat-focused, then this game is not it. The combat is the weakest part of it. The strongest part of it is the exploration and enjoying the narrative and the strange lore surrounding everything. And it's got this really nice graphic style to it as well. I've got a thing about glowing green. Like this kind of ethereal green is how I'd call it. If I could paint my house ethereal green, I probably would. But it would most likely terrify my stepson, so I'm not going to do that. I like this haunted aesthetic. It's a really strange world. It's a very unique world that it's in. It would be very easy to go down the full-on horror route, but they didn't. There's a lot of humor here. And there's a lot of strange whimsy going on. And I really dig that. And I want to explore these islands because each island's very different. What is the Demure Island? It's a fervid forest of fungus. Let's find out about it. I&M has a funga operation here, felling giant belugas shrooms for building materials, harvesting kerali for its medicinal properties. It's a desperate little outpost of something like civilization. Up puffs the affable factor. Oh, hello, Captain. Thank God for visitors. We'd go quite mad out here otherwise. Quite mad. How can we be of assistance? We could have tea with him. We could explore his island. We can compile a port report, which we absolutely should, because these are always worth money. A matter of luck. 60% chance of success in gathering supplies. We did not. I might try it again, though. My terror's not that high. I think I can afford it. Oh, come on. I'm going to have to try it again now. There we go. We gained 1 supplies and terror. That's something we can deal with later. Terror, of course, has a bunch of problems and will cause your people to go insane later on. We can accept a volunteer. Actually, no, we can't because we already have enough crew. You'll see that that's locked out. We can explore the island. Close crowded thickets of belugas and skirali. The Iron and Misery Company fells them daily, but they grow back almost as fast. It's a rat, and it's wearing a mask. This is what's really great about Sunless Sea. It is chock full of the unexpected. Now, there is, of course, a degree of repetition. You're going to meet some of the same characters because the game has permadeath. So you inherit the legacy of your previous captain, so you gain some of the stuff that he had, and you get to go again. But sometimes the characters do different things. Not always. Like, if I go and meet, say, in Vera Bright, or whatever the name is, there's a character that's always asking me to do the same thing for him. But as I mentioned earlier, the little passenger quest to that island has a bunch of different results, and you have no idea what they're going to be. So that's cool. Ah, the gully, the ambusher's favorite terrain feature. It looked like a short and easy way, but now a sudden flood of black and white fur confronts you, a starving torrent of Rattus Faber corsairs. Their chief addresses you in a piping inhuman voice, or unhuman voice. Easy there, my giants, we're in dire need here. Lend us help and we'll pay well for it, no need to fight. But you notice his rat hand is on the hilt of his rat cutlass, which may or may not be a euphemism or something. Okay. They want 3 supplies. Or we can refuse the trade. We only have a 21% chance of success. I'm a bit low. I'm not too low on supplies. Gathering supplies isn't that hard. I can probably get back to Fallen London with that. So there we go. Ah, and we gained Drowning Pearls. All right, fair enough. Okay. I'm not sure what those are. So if I had a little criticism for the game, and I've got a couple more, it's the idea that the game gives you just a metric ton of stuff and doesn't at any point tell you what any of it does. Like, there are clues in the writing, but not a great deal. It's what I like to call a wiki game. It's the sort of thing that sometimes you just have to dive into the wiki to find out what the hell this item is and who you're supposed to give it to. Because it could very well be an item that's only useful on some faraway island that you've never seen yet. I think the game could do, as I said, a much, much better job in dealing with that. In just... If you're going to give clues through the writing, maybe, I don't know, make them a bit more obvious. Am I an idiot? It's possible. These are the sort of things that you do discover over time, and I think there's a great joy in that discovery, and those that like roguelite games or roguelites are perhaps very much familiar with that idea. We're probably going to have to buy some more supplies because the rat ate them all. There we go. These are actually kind of pricey. Don't want to buy from here. A lot of these little shops that you'll find on the remote outposts are very expensive. So generally you want to do your shopping in London. It's got the best selection. And honestly, London is really one of the only ways to make money because most of these shops won't take any of your stuff. All the markets in London you could sell your curiosities that you found back there. So you very much feel like you're out in the cold whenever you're away from London. London is your safety net. It's your home base. And you could perhaps criticize the game for not allowing you to make money outside of that, because you can put yourself in a very awkward position that can involve you losing, you know. There are various little safety nets that help you out, like different currency types that will allow you to get supplies and fuel so you can do your next expedition, but it is entirely possible to put yourself in an unwinnable situation. The thing is that it's a game about kind of carrying on your legacy and learning, and starting up a new captain and doing some more stuff with that. So I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing. Although I would say that the level and the speed of progression, especially when it comes to buying new ships, is so ridiculously slow that I feel that people that die just before they get a new ship are going to find that very frustrating. And that, as I mentioned earlier, ties into that weakness of the combat and the idea that the combat just doesn't have a lot of options early on. And in order to get those options, you need to get a better ship. And, well, good luck most of the time. Therein lies the problem. I think we'll visit Mount Palmerston, and then we're going to kind of loop back around Codex and Vendorbyte, and then head back to Fallen London, see if there's anything that we can pick up here. As I say, we're good on fuel and supplies right now. That is a giant crab. We can test our new gun on it. It's got 150 hit points, so let's try and not suck. Alright, we're going to just kind of get right on the edge of the range here, if possible. Get a firing solution on it. I don't know how much damage this thing's going to do. I suppose we're about to find out, aren't we? Oh! And damn. I also set my engines on fire in the process, which involved burning 2 of my crew and a bunch of my hull. Lovely. These are some of the nasty random things that can actually happen to you. Little bit of roguelite flavor going on with that. Alright, is he going to charge me? Oh, he's burrowed. Okay. Alright, so that's what he does. Okay. I want to stay away from him, obviously, as you might imagine. Burning the engines is probably a terrible idea. Well, we managed to avoid his charge, so I guess that's okay. But yeah, I mean, this combat is not that compelling, is it? Honestly. Much more compelling when you have other weapons, but this ship does not have them, and getting a ship that does takes a long time. So, you know, I've got a couple of complaints here and there about it, but I think most of those complaints can not so much be dismissed, but are going to be less important to a lot of people. They have frustrated me at times, but it definitely feels like a learning experience. And lots of the unexpected is constantly around the corner in Sunless Sea. And that's eventually going to wear off, but if they keep updating it with new stories, as they said that they will, then there's going to be a lot of replayability in Sunless Sea. There already is. It's been in early access for a long time. It's packed full of content, and there's loads of things to learn. And, you know, I might actually prefer the permanent map to a randomly generated one, because I do feel like I'm gradually learning the world, and I'm gaining more confidence within it, and I'm willing to reach further and further to find stranger and stranger tides. It's a really unique setting, and it's a very well-executed, narratively driven game. If you're not the sort of person that enjoys reading a lot, you're going to get less from it. Honestly, I had a load of fun on stream just reading the passages out to my viewers, kind of audiobook style. I think maybe the game would have obviously benefited from voice acting, but the sheer amount of written text in it would make it impractical, I feel. So what's going on here? A lookout shouts far above. The false stars in the cavern roof are shifting. A rare and ominous event. What now? Eyes on deck. Forbid them to look. You can't really stop them, but you can at least discourage discussion. They won't like it, but it's safer. Alternatively, record the change and assign a name. 50% chance of success. If the new shape seems well-omened, your crew may be cheered. Alright, 50-50. We've lost terror. Good. Bats' luck. A gap-toothed stalker avers. All agree. Leathery, but lucky. You were fortunate. And that's actually a card as well, that level of fortune. Like, will let you unlock kind of a lucky event as well. It's kind of cool that almost everything that happens in this game will give you something that's going to allow you to do something later on. You don't know quite what that is, but you get to discover it. Alright, let's get back onto the crab and try not to die to it. Full speed ahead. There we go, we managed to avoid its charge. The cool thing about this crab is that we're going to eat it. Once you kill the crab, you can eat the crab. Or you can, like, dissect it for lore. But generally, the smaller crabs give you almost no lore, so it's not even worth bothering, but... There we go. Oop, okay. I am using a lot of fuel to fight this crab, so that is something I need to bear in mind. Oh, say I don't want to take 2 damage. 10 damage, lost a crewman. Ugh. We're going to have to get repairs back in New London. This is actually going badly. Uh-oh. I think we need to leave. Maybe if I can get out of range and finish it off, we'll be good. But I'm finding it hard to get a firing solution in these rocks here. It's a bit risky to keep fighting it, but we're only a couple of shots off killing it. Alright. Full speed ahead. Avoid its charge. Bring us around. Oh my god, no! Oh, we succeeded, but the hull is damaged. Okay, deploy the rat. The rat will heal us a bit. Keep setting my engines on fire, trying to avoid this bastard. Combat is a bit fiddly like that. Come on, one more shot. Just need to avoid him one last time. No! No! Alright, we're going to attack its weak spot for massive damage. No, that will never get old. Stop asking. We took a risk, and it was a bad one. We got one more shot. Take the shot. Oh. Alright. We will butcher it for supplies. And we have 16 of an unprepossessing mass, an appalling glob of organic matter and dripping fluids, retrieved from somewhere you'd rather not think about. God, I love the writing in this game. Can we smoke it? Possibly. There is probably something horrible. It's like, let's smoke it. We gain supplies, inexplicably, by smoking the crab. That's what I love about this game. It's just, there's so many unusual things that happen that you just don't expect. Sunless Sea, ladies and gentlemen. I am really enjoying it. It's a really intriguing experience. I think mechanically it is certainly simpler than it should be. Like, it could do with more weapons, more items for your ships. Your starting ship should either be quicker to upgrade to something better or have more features from the very beginning, I think, in order to make the combat more interesting. But outside of that, if you're in it for the story, this game is just chock full of it. And it's wonderfully written, in my opinion. But, you know, I'm a big Pratchett fan, and this game reminds me a lot of that. The Fallen London setting is very Discworld-esque, with a little bit of steam thrown in there for good measure. And just a little bit of eldritch horror. It's quite the thing. It's a very unique game. I recommend it. Sunless Sea, ladies and gentlemen. You can find it on Axiom Esports sponsor, GOG.com, DRM free. Or, of course, you can also pick it up on Steam for $19 or your regional equivalent. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.